Justin Kinner, Kev Nash. We are back with you live here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. We're live on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, live on ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel, live wingam.com, the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn, Spotify, the list goes on and on and on. We appreciate you tuning in, hanging out with us here on this Thursday. Coming up immediately following our show, card subject to change, and 2-hour show dedicated to all things professional wrestling. Benjamin Chimera, local wrestler, of course, been in the professional ranks for quite some time. I believe he's still the champion, by the way.
Champ of the world.
He was supposed to bring the belt in. Brother, no belt, no champion. Might shoot him a text here in a little bit. See what he's up to. See if he can bring the belt. Roger on YouTube says, congrats to DaRon. And then he said 2025 NBA champ. I mean, look, that very well could be. I mean, DaRon could be like, look, we saw Kostas Antetokounmpo win a championship. He was on the roster technically when the Lakers won it in 2020. He didn't play a second in those playoffs or that finals. I'm not taking anything away from him, but he's still an NBA champion, right? Like DaRon, I think, is going to play a role with the Denver Nuggets and play a role for a championship contender next year, no doubt about it. I mean, Obi Toppin just got done playing in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. We very well could see two Dayton Flyers go head-to-head in the NBA Finals next year. It could be DaRon against Obi Toppin. I mean, that's something that's pretty damn wild to consider as well. And then once Portland's done, building up to Monty Kamara, and then he'll be traded to a contender, because we know how that goes for Kev Nash's Portland Trailblazers. Actually, I don't think you're a Trailblazer guy.
I am not.
But, just a Dame time guy.
Yeah. I no longer watch that team. I don't watch it. I'm not watching Scoot Henderson.
You find out who your fans are as far as that's concerned. But coming up, we'll talk a little baseball. Kevin Nash's Guardians. Best record in baseball still? I
believe so.
Oh, you believe so?
I know they lost last night to
so much winning.
Can't the Orioles. Yeah, they lost last night to the Orioles. But I know the Yankees lost last night too, so I'm not sure.
We'll get to that. But I'm here to tell you, as a Cincinnati Reds fan, not a fan of the Guardians doing what they're doing, and it's because of one particular reason, and we'll get to that coming up. And it's not a typical reason you would think, but we have that coming up for you around the corner. So last night I watched the draft, first round of the NBA draft. I'm playing the chime. I don't think that is it. So the NBA, they get no credit. So it's always the NBA draft chime. That is just the ESPN draft chime. That is not the NFL draft chime. Like it's so when ESPN sends us content, or they'll send us little bells and whistles. Mm-hmm. It's listed as NFL draft chime in the folder, in the content folder, and I believe you.
This is very bootleg, but this is Obi getting drafted last night. Maybe.
The Phoenix Suns select DaRon Holmes II.
You are right. DaRon Holmes II.
Yeah, deuce.
So that,
he was hyped last night.
That was pretty cool. And what was really cool, Anthony Grant there at the table with them. He had his family, but I think the whole team was there.
Really?
I think the whole team was there, not down in the green room area, but like they all took a big team picture beforehand.
Nice.
That stuff's cool. Put the back and forth stuff aside. Like, that's cool no matter what, because I don't know when the next player from Dayton will get drafted. I mean, we said the same thing after Obi, and then in comes DaRon. I don't think there's a recruit coming in that has the makeup. And to be fair, Obi didn't have that makeup technically. But I don't know when the next time that'll be. So that's a pretty special moment for the Flyers last night, all in attendance. But my back and forth with AG aside, all that fun stuff, like there was no cooler picture than like, it's always cool seeing the coaches embrace the player afterwards. And when we had DaRon in here, all he did was just talk about the relationship with AG. At that point, it doesn't matter about X's and O's. At that point, it doesn't matter what was or was not accomplished during his time at UD. That's just about that relationship that they have. And that moment, everything else that happened at Dayton meant absolutely nothing other than the relationship that was formed between those two. I thought that was pretty cool. That is my favorite part about those drafts. Maybe not for the one and dones. You came in, you had a cup of coffee, and off you went. But like DaRon and AG went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
They went through, he was a special player in Anthony Grant's time at Dayton, still at Dayton. You know what I mean? And I like that. Those are the relationships I'll miss from college, or those types of things. Especially guys who've been around for a couple years, not the one and done in the transfer portal era. DaRon was a true Flyer, committed to UD, stuck it out at UD, could have gone to Duke, as we talked about with him when he was here a few weeks ago or whatever, and he stuck it out. So I thought that was a really cool moment between him and AG that was captured.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's been a bigger person waving the flag for UD basketball than the two best players that recently come out of there than, DaRon and Obi. Like, Obi does a ton of stuff on their socials. Obviously, with DaRon getting drafted last night, I caught some of his interview with the scrum and everything like that. And one of the first questions was, you went to UD. It's we don't normally see this many mid-major players getting drafted in the first round. And he's just like, it's just all due credit to the coaching staff and the university and the fans. Like, this is the places you want to come to develop. Like, this isn't a situation where, you just want to come here and play basketball and then leave. Like, they're going to work you hard. They're going to develop you and get you ready for the next level. So, like, he's obviously like that type of rhetoric that, DaRon is speaking to. It's not really, in my opinion, directed at players. I think it's directed at the adults that are guiding the players. Like, when he was on the show with us, he talked about how he ended up at UD. And it wasn't just like, oh man, they recruited me, I came in, it was awesome, and that was that. They were specifically looking for a landing spot for him because he had offers from all over the place. Like, he could have went anywhere he wanted. I mean, he was a 4-star recruit. He could have landed anywhere, but he was looking for a specific style of play, a specific coach that honed on in his skill level and what matched him. And I think he's speaking to those type of people out there, the people that are help guiding these young adults to make the right decision. So I think that's going to make waves for the UD Flyers on the recruiting and everything like that, especially the high school ranks.
Yeah, and look, and it's nights like last night that basically it's kept Calipari employed for as long as he's been employed. Calipari's a hell of a coach. AG is a good coach too. Just whatever. But the point is though, is last night's that was a big time fundraiser type night for UD because it was just plastered all over the place. I mean, from the time he gets his name is announced to the name of the school being dropped to the stage time that he gets up there with the hat. And then of course announces the trade, and then he gets the picture with Adam Silver, and then he does the interview after. And then of course the post draft interview up on the stage with everybody. That's big for programs like that. And it's like, as long as, maybe not going as deep into the tournament and winning as many tournament games as what they should be doing. It's like what we've seen before at Kentucky before he ultimately left for Arkansas. But you see that the only thing that Calipari had to hang his hat on towards the end of that UK run was the fact that he was just continuously putting, his guys in the NBA and changing their lives as far as that's concerned. But nonetheless. All right. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio. Of course, Ron Howard from the top rope. Do you want me to read it?
Go for it.
How many Raiders got drafted last night? Ron, who pulled your string, dude? Like, what?
Night 2 of the NBA draft. It starts in less than 30 minutes.
Yeah, So he also said, Viva la France. By the way, my favorite meme from last night. So the show I loved and watched religiously growing up was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Loved it, right? And Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and there's that famous episode that Will Smith, no, doesn't go up and smack somebody. He improv that scene about his dad or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Why don't he love me, man?" Like, right?
Oh, no.
My favorite meme, my favorite one that I saw today was, when Bronny, after the Lakers picked at 17 and didn't pick him, it was, this was Bronny after the Lakers pick. I died laughing. I thought that was, why don't he love me, man? I thought it was absolutely perfect. There were some good memes last night for a bunch of people. Like,
gracious.
Everyone says no one knows these players, no one knows these names. But I think that's why the draft might work in reverse. We may not know any of these names, but I feel like we know a lot more about these guys now because of just those individual feature pieces that are done on all the draftees or whatever. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
As far as that's concerned.
They had 2 coverages of the draft going on. You had your ESPN, you had your ABC. So I was flipping between both of them. This is kind of like quasi MLB draft because obviously there's a ton of overseas players getting drafted. And same thing happens in Major League Baseball as well. It takes a little bit of time for a lot of these guys to develop and become, the superstars and stuff like that. But I heard this on ESPN Radio earlier today. Like, there's going to be somebody, we don't know who that somebody is, that's going to make an impact on a playoff team. Like last year, Derek Lively out of Duke, rookie, made a huge impact for the Mavericks on their way to the championship round, to the NBA finals. So like, somebody's on this, like, we keep saying like, oh man, nobody's any good, this is the worst draft in ever. But there's always an all-star, there's always good players. We just want that all-star to be told to us who they are right here, right now, so we can go ahead and get ready for them. But rewind a couple of years ago to Zion, like, oh man, we knew Zion was going to be this, that, and the third, and Zion barely plays basketball. So We never know.
So no, that's a great point. And I think we've talked about this in the past. So I thought it was the crossover between two Flyers that were recently drafted. Obviously, Tumani Kamara last year, but not talking about him, but Obi Toppin in 20, and then obviously this draft with DaRon Holmes. I remember the talk about Obi's draft was very similar to this. Obi's draft was not very good going in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All the talk about the 2020 draft was just, and that was a hell of a college basketball season.
Yeah.
It was an unfortunate ending. We didn't get to see a lot of these teams and stars, on the big stage in the NCAA tournament, of course. But all the similar talking points of this draft are eerily similar to that 2020 draft, where there's not that franchise player. There's not that guy that you're going to, if there's ever a year to trade back and to give up your pick to get draft picks for future drafts, this is the year to do it. All the talking points from 20 existed in this. Well, to your point, Kev, if you look back at that 2020 draft that was supposedly bad, how about Anthony Edwards, who was the number 1 pick that year?
Ant-Man.
I think
Superstar.
He's doing pretty good. There was a point where we thought MJ was his dad this year. That's how good he played this year. James Wiseman's still really good.
Yeah.
But not the player that everyone anticipated him to be. Maybe he develops down the road. But, James, LaMelo Ball.
There's rumors that Wiseman's going to land back with the Warriors. That's the rumor.
And they'll be, he's with the Pistons now, right?
Yeah.
So, you go down. So Isaac Okoro, not a great player, but again, valuable piece.
Yeah.
Right. Obi Toppin obviously is going to get a second contract. He's going to, he's going to be taken care of. How about Tyrese Halliburton
at 12?
Tyrese Halliburton, Cole Anthony's still pretty good.
Yep.
As far as that's concerned, going down Tyrese Maxey, who I remember when the Sixers, when they were talking about, trying to get help for obviously their big guy in Joel Embiid, they were talking about all these players that were untouchable. Maxey, they consider untouchable. This was 2 years ago. And I'm like, what? No, you have an MVP and an Embiid. Everyone's touchable. Move on, get stars in there. Well, then we saw this year, there was literally the conversation this year. They think this Maxey's team, not the MVP Embiid's team. That's a franchise potential player right there. Emmanuel Quickly, who was drafted by the Knicks with Obi Toppin and quickly played right away. It was very good defensively. And again, I can continue to go down this list.
Desmond Bane, he plays for the Grizzlies. He's actually from what's the town right over the border in Indiana?
I don't mean to leave you. No,
it'll
Richmond.
come to Richmond. Yes,
Okay,
he's from
Richmond,
Richmond, Indiana. Yeah, he's from Richmond, Indiana. Played at TCU, knockdown shooter, playing with the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja and everything like that. So he's a very good player. So it's tons of good guys out there. Xavier Tillman from Michigan State just won himself a ring with the Celtics, a good role player. So it's guys out there. We just don't know who they are yet.
Yeah. So and again, this draft could end up being really good. And the one thing is, you look at the second round that year, no one hit from that second round. And that's usually the case, though.
Right.
That's why this talk of them wanting to expand the NBA draft is kind of wild to me, because it's not as if there's a bunch of stars. Again, you can go back, Jokic. I get it.
Yeah.
But that's what makes those players interesting. It's not like the Tom Brady's of the world. For the people out there that say, you don't need to take a quarterback in the first round, you can get a Tom Brady in the sixth round. Well, you can get a Brock Purdy with the Mr. Irrelevant, right? That's the outlier conversation we've had for years, where I'm like, but an outlier is you don't game plan for an outlier, right? It would be nice if you could count on getting a franchise quarterback that late. Same thing in this, but nonetheless, when the Cleveland Cavaliers were up, all right, and I get it, you have Jared Allen and you have your bigs, but that's why I thought DaRon Holmes made a lot of sense just from a defensive standpoint, and you're not bringing DaRon in to be the guy right away. I thought, if you have obviously the both bigs starting and you have him coming off the bench and that defensive presence, I really wanted him in Cleveland. But again, if I don't know anything about Dayton and I don't know anything about DaRon Holmes, and I'm not a hypocrite and had him sitting across from me and you on the show a month before, maybe I wouldn't be pushing for him. But did the Cavs miss out on an opportunity by not drafting a Dayton Flyer? I feel like they missed out on Obi Toppin years ago when they picked Okoro. Did they miss out on DaRon Holmes the way I feel like they did Obi Toppin years ago?
I don't think so, simply because of the head coach. Obviously, the big piece out there, the trading rumor, was Jared Allen and everything that came out about JB and him, and so
they're keeping him now.
Yeah. So when you make that move to get his former head coach, where he played, some of his best basketball, especially early on in his career before he started really kind of blossoming with the Cavs, once they made the the call to hire Kenny Atkinson, you're not getting rid of him. So once that was out there, I knew they were never getting rid of him. And they've been steadfast about Evan Mobley's never going anywhere. Like they're trying to keep Evan Mobley for the long haul. Like the dreams of him turning into Kevin Garnett are still there in the city of Cleveland. So when they were on the clock, I didn't think they were going to draft him. I just didn't think there was a spot for him with the Cavs.
Good point, because I guess if they moved on from Jared Allen like the plans were, he would have been a perfect replacement.
Yes.
So that basically signifies the Cavs are not moving on from Jared Allen.
Right.
Obviously, the coach I thought that was announced already. I don't know. I guess they find I fell for the Woj report, not the Woj bomb. The Woj bomb happened yesterday. The Woj report was from a couple 2 days ago, whatever it was.
I don't know where he was. I think the report said he was help coaching a national team, not in the United States, getting ready for the Olympics. So like they worked out the deal, but he hadn't been in the States to sign it. So I guess
that's what's official now.
I guess you actually have to sign a piece of paper in the NBA. You can't do it like digital, like when you buy a house, you just sign everything online, like whatever,
which is wild.
Pass me the keys. But like for these contracts in the NBA, you actually got to put pen to paper.
Nonetheless, but interesting night last night again. We'll close our thoughts on the draft talk when we come back, because there's one pick I really, really liked. There was a narrative for why this particular individual dropped as far as he did. And I'm very curious, is like the NBA, you talked about the baseball feel of the NBA draft. It is trending in that direction for a lot of reasons. One, we don't recognize half the names in the draft anymore. But two, the younger you are, the better you are as far as how you are viewed by these prospects, which is pretty wild. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Kenner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Did that connect with you? All right, and we are back. It's the Kidder and Kev Show. Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Yes, Ron Howard throughout the – how many Raiders were drafted last night? Ryan Roth. The last Raider was Vitaly Potapenko.
Indeed.
I think he still works within the Cavs organization. Last I heard, he was still working with the Cavs organization. I know when Wright State this was years ago, when Wright State played at Cleveland State, they all went to a Cavs game, and Coach Brown had a chance to go catch up with him down there. My favorite story from Jim Brown is when he shared the story. Injuries derailed this from happening, but Wright State was this close to getting – so Vitaly Potapenko was still there before he ultimately declared for the draft. So this would have been, 95 into 96 or 96 into whatever it was for that draft. It had to be 96 because that was the Kobe draft. So when they were overseas, they were very close to getting Zydrunas Ilgauskas, and they were close to getting Dirk Nowitzki. So injuries derailed some things from happening and connecting, some things. And once Vitaly, once Big Z got hurt, that kind of derailed a lot of the conversations. And yeah, that was my favorite story from Jim Brown regarding that possibility.
Could you imagine that?
Because back then, now you watch this draft and it's all, overseas players, and you even watch college now. I mean, you look at Anthony Grant's teams, there's a lot of foreign players as far as that's considered the makeup of the roster, but that was unheard of back in that time. Wright State with Vitaly Potapenko, that was kind of unheard of at that time. And those type of talents existed, and mid-majors weren't exploring that. But because of the relationships that, Ralph Underhill and those guys had over there, they were kicking the tires on those. But yes, if injuries didn't derail that, they were, and then they didn't realize too that Dirk was about to go into the draft. So when Dirk went into the draft a year after that, Jim Brown would always says like, damn, he could have. What could have been. Big
I
Z,
remember
Vitaly Potapenko, Big Z, and Dirk Nowitzki all together at Wright State would have been wild.
I remember hearing Barkley talk about Dirk, and he was trying to get him to go to Auburn. He was like, yeah.
Oh, so Jim Brown against against Chuck, huh?
yeah. I guess everybody wanted some Dirk.
But he didn't want to leave where he was, and I don't know much about where he was. Jim tells the story. When we get closer to college basketball, he'll share it. In fact, I always make him share the story every time because I just think it's that damn cool. But
very cool.
And obviously that relationship, Vitaly going to Cleveland wasn't a surprise. I mean, look, there was a lot of connections between Cleveland and Wright State at the time. But Cleveland used to do their preseason here. Chris Broussard, who used to be with ESPN, he's now one of the panelists on those shows with Fox Sports. He covered the Cavaliers, so he spent a lot of time here in Dayton. He used to come on the show back when I'd fill in for Dayton Sports Scene back, so it was one of my favorite guys to get on, but he would come on to talk NBA and Cavs all the time. But yeah, he had a lot of memories of coming and spending time in Dayton at the Nutter Center covering their preseason games and stuff like that. So their practices and all that.
Raider up, baby.
So that's how so the reason the Cavs draft, or, at that time they were interested in Vitaly or whatever it was during that time. But yeah, nonetheless, thought that was very, very interesting. And then Vitaly Potapenko, yes, was drafted a pick right before Kobe Bryant. So Wright State has a draft pick that went higher than Kobe Bryant.
Take that
17-year-old Kobe Bryant.
You know what? This, Wright State coming in second or third place to, Dirk or whatever the case may be, that didn't mean anything then. That means everything now, not just Wright State, any program out there, basketball, football, whatever, wherever you come in when that young person decides to go to whatever school, if you come in second, that still means something. Like you talked about with Coach AG and DaRon and the guys, like it's about that relationship. What's the relationship like? Because if those guys hit the portal, the second place team has a leg up on the other teams because you already have that established relationship.
Is this live, by the way? When will that be live?
That will be live on Monday.
So I'll wait. Okay, just making sure. My ADD, I figure if I have a chance to read it now, I better do it. But we'll hold on as far as that's concerned. But okay. But yeah, I thought that was that's one of my favorite, right? But that would have changed the trajectory. Would have totally changed the trajectory of that program as far as that's concerned. That was a loaded draft class, that 96.
Yes.
Loaded. And no one was saying about that draft the way they were talking about this. Because we did that. We looked the other day about all the high schoolers. We were still trying to figure out why they felt they needed to put the boot on the throat of allowing high schoolers to go from high school straight to the NBA. It's not as if these guys were flaming out. I mean, the hit rate there, if seven high schoolers got drafted, at least 4 of the 7 were succeeding. I don't even know if 4 of the 7 American college players that were drafted in the top 15 will make it. So,
Right.
like that's the crazy part about today's game as far as that's concerned. So that also brings me to this point too. There's a player. So one of my best friends, he's a big Tennessee fan. Okay, obsessed with Tennessee. So because he's a great friend and has to deal with all the Ohio State stuff, every Saturday during college football, or, during the college basketball season, we have all the games on. He sits through our games, so we sit through the Tennessee games. And, there's this kid, Dalton Connect, that I just instantly became a fan of just because, like, he's a big kid. He could shoot. He could dribble. He could dunk. He could do absolutely everything. I mean, like, he was SEC Player of the Year ultimately. Yeah. D2 transfer, so you're not expecting much, and then just takes over for Tennessee, dominates in the SEC. And I thought, for sure, for a team that's a contender, taking a kid like that makes a lot of sense because he can come in and contribute right off the bat. At one point when the season ended, and I was listening to some shows this morning on ESPN Radio 2 on Unsportsmanlike, they were saying what's wild is he was actually at one point considered the number 2 player to be drafted right when college basketball ended, and then just kind of disappeared a little bit. And so they were asking questions to Bobby Marks and those guys about, okay, what happened? Did he just not work out well? Like, what, workout's not good. No, he killed it in everything. But what teams shied away from was the fact that he was 23.
Yep.
And teams didn't like that. And I'm thinking, that's wild to me. So to me, everyone's saying, man, he dropped and he didn't go where he should have. To me, honestly, he ended up right where he possibly should have, because the Lakers taking a 18-year-old project, okay, doesn't make any sense. The Lakers taking a 18-year-old from overseas that maybe could be Jokic 4 or 5 years from now doesn't make any sense. Getting a Dalton Connect that can come in and maybe not be a star, but contend for Rookie of the Year and actually provides them with what they lacked last year, which was shooting and athleticism and everything else. I think this is one hell of a get for the Los Angeles Lakers at pick number 17, getting Dalton Connect, the SEC Player of the Year. I'm a big fan of his. I don't think he's going to be an all-star by any means, but I think that was probably the biggest win as far as getting a potential, not star, but just a potential big-time impact player. And Alex Caruso, who just got a huge contract, by the way. I think he'd have that type of impact on a team. I thought that was a huge get for the Lakers. Though they showed the little clip of them high-fiving and hugging in the war room, as they call it. I'm rolling my eyes. I'm like, stop. Oh yeah, we got this 18-year-old kid. Man, 6 years from now, when we're all fired, the next regime, they're gonna look really good with him. No, now I see why they were celebrating. Doesn't happen often in today's NBA, but a draft pick that is coming in now to help. The Lakers are better today than they were yesterday, and you usually don't say that about a draft in the NBA, especially in today's age.
Absolutely. I mean, this has been going on for quite a while in the NBA. When a guy is, that's why some of these guys leave school before, quote unquote, the general fans. Oh, you're not ready for the league. You're not ready for the league. But the NBA looks down on you if you stay in school too long. So he does 2 years at junior college, does 2 years at Northern Colorado, then transfers to Tennessee for his 5th and final year. So that makes him 23 years old. So like they're looking at him as a finished product. But guess what? A finished product can make an impact immediately. It's kind of like we were talking about yesterday, where if I play 5 years of college basketball, I can come into the league and help a team right away. You take 2-3 years to cook and finish being a product. But by that 3rd year, you're way better than me because your potential is so much higher than mine. So I think that's the situation with this kid. Like all those kids that went before him, they have higher ceilings. But right now, he's better than them right here, right now. He's going to make an impact for them. And there's no mystery why this is a perfect fit. It's a typical LeBron James type of player. It's a smart player. It's an older player. I mean, you talk about Caruso.
We just talked about this the other day.
Yeah, Caruso. Oh, man, LeBron loves playing with him. Caruso was a 4-year player, knew what he was doing, as opposed to an 18-year-old was clueless. Reeves, see the one meme of Reeves goes around like Brian pointing out. He's like, well, okay. But Reeves is where he's supposed to be. He knows what he's supposed to be doing. A 5-year player in college. Him, a 5-year player in college. He's going to know what he's doing. An 18-year-old kid fresh out of high school or the G League or 1 year in college is not going to know what they're doing because they don't have as many basketball reps. He has a ton of basketball reps. It's going to be an easy fit for him with the Lakers.
Yeah, that's why DaRon is going to do so well. And this kind of is like what we talked about. Tumani Kamara, a couple years in, with Dayton, but gets thrown out into the wolves with a bad Portland team, and you're running around with really no leadership out there or really direction, right? Because it's just a bad rebuilding team. But now you're an experienced college basketball player who's on the older side, and you're coming into the league, and you're gonna have a shot to really make it. DaRon's gonna have a legitimate shot at making it. The reason Obi is still making it is because he came in, no one was paying attention to Obi Toppin. I remember when he was standing on the sidelines in straight clothes or whatever, as when he was redshirted, I was like, he was kind of goofy. Like, he kind of was awkward looking. You know what I mean? Then he grew into his body and he turned into a freak athlete, and well, the rest is history. Now here I am looking goofy and awkward still in my 30s, right? But like those guys are older and developed. Like I get it. But what another comparison to the baseball draft is, it just depends where you're at team-wise within a rebuild, or where you're at from a competitive standpoint, because the Lakers are in a win now mode. Right. They don't have time to draft an 18-year-old from overseas, and man, he needs a couple years to develop. They don't have time for that. They do not have to. That's why LeBron wants a smart player to come in that can play right off the bat. JJ Redick wants that as well, because he's relying on guys to come in to make an impact right away, right? Same thing in baseball. I mean, there's a lot of times teams who are really, really bad who are rebuilding, well, I don't know. We don't want a college player because he might be ready too soon. And although he may be called up and he could be playing at a high level, we don't want to waste a competitive year of his production of us losing 90 to 100 games because we're not ready around him yet. When the Reds were ready, I remember when they drafted Nick Senzel, that was the big thing. He was coming out of Tennessee, ironically enough. Nick Senzel, Tennessee guy. So when they got him, and then same thing when they decided to draft Nick Lodolo, who I think came from Florida, another SC, but he was a college pitcher. They were getting guys out of college. The Reds were at one point getting younger guys because they knew they had a long rebuild ahead of them, and it would give them more time and have a higher ceiling or a lower ceiling, but guys that could produce right away. And that's what a lot of teams do when they're closer to being ready to, compete, which is ironic, talking about the Cincinnati Reds, of course, but nonetheless. But yeah, I thought that talking point was like, oh man, 23 years old, he's icky. I'm like, I'm 34. Should I be put down? Like,
Oh man.
Yeah.
Where's my bell?
Oh yeah, the old man bell, as far as that's concerned. But I thought that was a cool pick. Any other pick that caught your attention? How about the Terrence Shannon Jr. pick? If he does not go through those allegations, is he a lottery pick?
Yes.
So the Minnesota freaking Timberwolves, who are already being viewed as that next big, not super team, but that next big potential Denver Nuggets dynasty type of build, that's a huge get for them.
Huge. I mean, they're such a big team already. They just got bigger on the wing, and you're imagining him and Ant-Man. I mean, both of those dudes are 6'5". So you got two guys in the backcourt that are 6'5". Like, you talk about Rudy, you talk about Karl Anthony Towns at the center and forward position. Like, they're a big team. And that was kind of the reason why I was bullish on them beating the Denver Nuggets. It was like they have the size to compete with the Denver Nuggets. So, yeah, I mean, they just got better.
So how about Adam? And this was my next point, too. Last one here before we close out the hour. I would argue Memphis taking Edey made them immediately better.
I like that. I'm happy for him. I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, he says, not saying Memphis is going to be tops in the Western Conference, but taking Edey allows them to do more than they could last year without outside of having last year without, I think he meant Steven Adams. Without Steven Adams, of course, getting Ja back, but getting Ja and him. I mean, yeah, that's a very interesting one too. That they could fall flat, and I don't think they miss a beat. I think Memphis will keep going. I think that was a perfect spot to take a chance on Edey, because any team ahead of them, they're trying to rebuild. They need him to hit. Memphis wants him to hit, but they don't need him to hit. Right. Memphis is going to be a contender in the West for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm just happy for Zach Edey. I mean, he got so much talk about him during the season about like his NBA prospects and everything like that. Like, nobody was focusing on what he was actually doing in college. Yeah, they lost in the national championship game, but like, they don't get there without him. I mean, he did his part. He blocked about 5 shots, had about 30 points. He was doing his thing. Like, it wasn't his fault that they lost. And I mean, so many people say, oh man, he's gonna go in the second round. It's like, why would he? Why? Like, because we don't use centers anymore. We don't value centers. Look, man, tall is tall. Tall is tall. Get the rebound, go right back up. Like, I'm happy for him.
It's the Kenner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. right, welcome back. Kinner and Cav, 1410 ESPN Radio. We are Dayton's radio home of the Cincinnati Reds. Reds are off today. Probably a good thing. Did you see that damn game the other day where Hunter Green puked on the mound? So
I didn't see the game. I caught the highlight or low light on good old Twitter. I was like, what's happening here? Oh, there goes lunch.
So, but the weird thing about that, keep in mind, he throws a 95-mile-per-hour pitch. Okay? He throws a 95-mile-per-hour pitch. So then after he follows through, he stands back up and then he hurls. I don't know about you, but I could feel when I'm about to puke. And I do one of these, like I put the finger up to someone if they're talking, not the middle one, just the pointer, maybe the middle one, depending on if they don't listen to me say, hey, hold on. But like, Kev, I could feel that. Have you ever just been sitting here and like a infant just puke across the table before?
No.
Like, that's what's weird to me. So like, as he's in the windup, did he feel that coming on at some point? And then just say, well, I got to get rid of this pitch. And he threw a strike, I believe. He threw a 95-per-hour strike. It was foul tipped. He throws it 95 miles per hour, foul tipped. And then the second his arm goes down and he pops up, it just went out.
Disgusting.
I have no clue what the heck that was. And I know the tire debate yesterday was whether he should have been pulled or not. He should have been pulled, in my opinion, but it's not the point. It was one of the wildest things I'd ever seen. That was just a weird puke to me. He tried the old puke and rally. He tried to stay out there. Have you ever had a puke and rally?
Of course.
Yeah, it's the only way to get through college. But Hunter Green, to his credit, he technically did puke and rally. He puked and he rallied to stay out there. But the problem is the Pirates kept rallying more runs up on that board. But I've never seen anything like that. To me, you should know when a puke is coming, I feel like, and to just continue on with the 95-mile-per-hour pitch that was ultimately a strike, and then to come up and just instantly puke and not like do the, like a fur ball type of thing. I don't know. Wild scene at GABP the other night.
Reminds me of Jamie Foxx, a.k.a. Willie Beeman, in Any Given Sunday.
450. Literally, as you said it popped up. That was very weird. As you said, Willie Beeman, Ryan Roth. Literally, that was the wildest thing. It was like captions at the bottom.
Steaming Willie Beeman.
That's what Ryan Roth just said. Willie Beeman. So
I remember LL Cool J was in that. He played the running back. He's like, "What I'm supposed to put in a 3-point stance in your throw up?" It's like, sorry, man. Like, what? There's no sorry here, dude. Like, you don't need more than a sorry for barfing on the football field and expect us to play. It's disgusting.
He kept on pitching, but
ain't no way.
I don't know what the right call was. I think David Bell should have pulled him, but I've heard a lot of arguments. People say, well, he said he's fine. You got to take his word for it. But the thing is, do you guys not understand that? I'm not saying you can't trust your athletes, but every athlete's going to say they're fine. An athlete can have their arm dangling like this. I'm good. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. I'm a gamer. Give me the ball. Right? Like, so I get why people are saying you need to trust your athletes, but at the same time, they're not going to, and I'm not saying that they're selfish, right? Like we do this all the time. Like when Baker Mayfield hurt his shoulder, he was trying to be that warrior that would go out there. This goes back a couple years ago when he was with the Browns, that, horrible year that he had, but it was because he had he separated his shoulder in week 2 and just could never get back to his full throwing motion. And that's why he was bad. Otherwise he would have been MVP. But no, like at the end of the day, it was one of those, like he tried to play through it. And I'm like, well, if this was Joe Burrow playing through an injury, he's tough. But he's playing through an injury and he's selfish. And it's like we moved the goalpost on what these athletes are. But the bottom line is Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, it doesn't matter. These guys are going to play through these injuries because they're going to tell you they're fine. And it's up to the coach and organization to say, you're not fine. We appreciate your toughness, but we can't let you continue to go out there playing hurt at the expense of our team having a chance to win. I just didn't agree with that decision from David Bell. I know that's 2 games old since then, but we weren't on yesterday.
Maybe I had a bad piece of bubble gum.
Maybe bad lettuce like I had.
Yeah. I mean, just get it out your system and then, all right, man, I'm good. I mean, just like you said, we've been in college before. We all had to do the puke and rally. And once you get up out your system, you're ready for more. But like more shots.
He said it was, I guess he did this the game before.
Oh, then he's sick. Then.
He has a problem.
He's sick. Like, it's either he has a stomach bug or he's just nervous.
Well, he said overhydration.
Overhydration.
It's like, who he reminds me of? You know who he's starting to remind me of?
Oh no.
He's putting off major Russell Wilson vibes to me. Is that who?
No, that's not who I thought you were going with.
I
did. I thought you talk about somebody that we know personally.
That could be an entire laundry list
exactly
of names, but he's putting off major, like everything he says is so, I wake up and instantly start getting ready for the game, and I'm overhydrating is what's happening. I'm and it's just like Russell
Is that
Wilson.
a thing?
Apparently, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the perfect answer. Instead of just saying, yeah, I just felt a little funny before the game. We could all sympathize with that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, now you're overhydrating. It's just, I can't explain it, but if you listen to his sound bites, he does put off to me major Russell Wilson vibes, which, hey, Russell Wilson's he puts off a winning vibe at times, right? I'm hoping Hunter Green can be that guy. He's been great this year, but overhydration. And then now I'm going to have to take some pills to feel a little better. But the concerning part is that the Reds have no idea what's wrong with him.
Right.
The Reds are also the same ones that said that, Christian Encarnacion Strand, that, yeah, he's fine to go back out there. He goes and plays 2 games and then has that same injury, puts him on the 60-day IL. Like, this is the stuff and by the way, then you find out later that Christian Encarnacion Strand didn't trust the Cincinnati Reds initial evaluation. So he went to get a second opinion. He was playing through an injury that they said he was 100% for. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, something's not right. I need to go get a second opinion. He goes and gets a second opinion. And then that second opinion puts him on the 60-day IL because the Reds missed it. What is happening with this Reds medical staff? It's always something. I mean, they can't even get him to figure out what bad lettuce he's eating. I have no clue. So nonetheless, but Jordan Earhart on YouTube says, maybe it's nerves. Some guys are just pukers. He's been such, I mean, he was a Sports Illustrated cover athlete.
Right.
He's been the number one guy everywhere he's gone. In fact, there was one point where he was such a good shortstop that there were many people saying, man, and he was such a great pitcher and such a great shortstop and hitter coming up that there was a lot of people saying, well, maybe he shouldn't be a pitcher. Maybe he should be. So I'm bringing all this up because he's been an elite athlete at every level. I'm not saying elite athletes don't get nervous, but it's like he's been with the Reds for a couple of years. This is the first time he's puked in these games that we're privy to, but on the mound, in the clubhouse, in the dugout before you go out, in the locker room, in basketball, football, but on the mound, he threw a 95-mile-per-hour pitch, came up and didn't come up and be like, oh, I'm going to be sick and then get sick. 95 miles per hour popped up, and it was just, I mean, the launch angle on that. For you stat nerds out there, it was pretty impressive. Nonetheless, but Reds are off today. And they'll be back at it again tomorrow. We'll have more on that coming up here in just a little bit. But I did want to highlight one thing, that as a whole, Major League Baseball right now, when you look at the standings as a whole, there's one team sitting at the very, very top. There's one team sitting at the very, very top. And that is Kev Nash's Cleveland Guardians. They have 51 wins. They have 27 losses. There is not a team in baseball that has a better record than the Cleveland Guardians. They are the number 1 team in baseball. They have a plus 105 run differential. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They're almost unbeatable at home, 26-9. All right, they're 25-18 on the road. All right, they've scored over 394 runs. They're top 5 in runs scored this season when that was supposed to be one of their weak points. I mean, this team has been phenomenal. But there is one, we could talk about their runs per game. We could talk about their launch angle. We could talk about their M square, C square times B square, whatever other analytics you want to throw out there. We could talk about it all, but there's one number that I have a huge problem with, and that number being what it is, with them being the best team in baseball, it is not good for baseball, and it's definitely not good for the Cincinnati Reds. I'll explain why when we come back. Kev's like, why can't I just be happy about my team? You just can't have nice things. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Man, stuff is coming in left and right. For it being June, I feel like we're not struggling for anything to talk about.
We are living life like it's golden.
Sam Amico, NBA reporter, senior NBA writer for HoopsWire, put out that Donovan Mitchell to remain with the Cavs. He said that Kenny Atkinson was his preferred choice and that they are working on finalizing a deal very, very soon.
Excellent.
So I'll react to that when it becomes official because I don't want like a Texas A&M baseball coach situation. You see that? That's why. I mean, that's that happens everywhere. But he didn't do himself any favors. You know, like I remember when Archie left Dayton. Archie would never say, I'm never leaving Dayton. I'm not doing this. He just, he was very careful with what he said.
Yeah.
That's why I was annoyed when people were mad that he was leaving because he never gave any true indication he was staying. Texas A&M's baseball coach was like, this is the best place in the world. I'm not leaving. I love it here. If you want to be a champion, this is where you come to, even though they lost in the championship game. But that was besides the point. And then, after the game, berates a reporter for asking about the reports. I mean, Texas.
Dare you ask me that?
Texas just fired their baseball coach. All the links and rumors are reporting that. And he's shock and awe, just totally upset, furious. And then not even 24 hours later, hook 'em horns and all this stuff. I mean, just wild stuff. Coach,
horns down. Horns down.
Yeah. Is what it is. It is what it is. But that's coming up. I don't know what this necessarily means, but the NFL, I know what it means. I just don't know all the details. So I don't want to go too deep into it unless you chime in. That's what I thought. I want to make sure we're buttoned up on this before I go too deep into it. But the NFL has been ordered to pay $96 million in commercial class damages and $4 billion in residential class damages per today's guilty verdict in the Sunday Ticket antitrust trial. So are we due any money? Like, what does that mean?
You had to have the Sunday Ticket in a certain window. So basically, it's almost saying like the NFL forced people to get the Sunday Ticket. It's not having games readily available to everybody. So basically, at the end of the day, in a couple years, we're going to be able to buy a la carte. Really doesn't affect a lot of people in this area because all the Cincinnati Bengals games come on. So for me, being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I will be able to buy, I only want to pay $200 a year to watch all the Steelers games. So they're going to make that available. So like my brother in Vegas, he doesn't have to go to the Steelers sports bar anymore. He can just simply buy it and watch it at home. So like in about 3-4 years, that's going to be the case. I'm not taking big business side here, but it's like when people complaining about the price, we're going to sue you because it's too expensive. It's like I agreed with Roger Goodell when he said, look, because ESPN wanted to lower it to $70 or whatever. And then Roger Goodell and the NFL stepped in and said, no, like this is a premium product. And everyone said, oh, you're money hungry. And it's like, yes, I would love it for $70. Don't get me wrong. But I would like to think that if I ever become rich enough to own a business, that I'm not going to be sued because my calamari is too expensive. Like, because I look like a guy that would serve calamari at a restaurant, right? Like I'm just saying, but like I see, but it's beyond that. Yeah,
it's more moving parts.
It's a lot of moving parts because I think they were also forcing people to get the red zone as well, which like, hey, well, I only want Sunday Ticket. Why am I forced to buy this as well?
Okay.
Kind of almost like how, when cable was like, hey man, I want ESPN package, but like, hey man, we're forcing you to get the cooking network too. Like, well, I don't cook and I don't care about other people that cook. Why am I being charged extra because you guys are forcing me to get the cooking network along with the ESPN package? So it's kind of like that.
Well, so because right now what you also have is like Peacock, HBO, and others combining. I mean, you have like if you get the Disney network or whatever they call that, the Disney Channel network. What do they call that? Disney Plus, Disney Channel network. Sorry, that's my age right there. Holy crap. Damn, the Disney Channel network, and ESPN and all that. So like, but they charge extra for it, but it's all under the same umbrella. So that could be guilt. I don't know, weird stuff. But I did get last night. I got YouTube TV back. I had got rid of it for a while.
Okay,
welcome
back.
I wanted to watch the draft, and I got tired of my one app not working that I pay a lot of money for. That didn't work. I was having an off night.
That's how it goes, man.
Yeah, China must be busy. There's a big event tonight, by the way. I'm excited for that.
Oh,
let's be clear.
Goodness.
Take your political affiliation aside. If you don't find Trump versus anybody in a debate entertaining, I don't know what to tell you. I'm so jacked for tonight. I got YouTube TV back so I can watch the debate tonight and watch the DaRon get drafted last night. And what I thought was an off night for the Reds, I'm totally mistaken, and I apologize as Dayton's home of the Reds. The fact that I said that there's no Reds game tonight, my bad. Maybe not for me, though, because I'll be watching this debate, all right, as far as I'm concerned. But Jeremiah Bennett came through in the clutch here. Appreciate Jordan who called it out. Why did yes, Jordan or Jeremiah, you were correct. There is a Reds game tonight. But jacked up for the debate tonight, man. I can't wait to stick to sports on Twitter later.
Oh man, it's gonna be a fireworks show.
You see what CNN's doing?
No.
So there's usually like a 7-second delay. You know guess how long the delay is now?
30 seconds.
No, it's 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
See, so it's 2 minutes. So now, anything that Trump says that they don't like, they got 2 minutes to get that stuff edited out. Trump's going to be on his best behavior tonight, or so it'll appear. It's going to be wild stuff.
It's going to be insane.
I'm not going to lie to you. I watched comedies growing up. I love stand-up comedians. I love sitcoms. I love all that stuff. But that Hillary Trump series of debates might have been my favorite nights of life. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in my entire life. It was that good. It's going to be
cringe. I'll watch it like on the side. I don't think I can watch it. It's just gonna be so bad on every angle. There's gonna be people just freezing mid sentence. There's gonna be
one person freezing mid sentence.
It's gonna be
age bell.
Yeah, he's gonna freeze mid sentence and look bewildered. There's another person gonna be making inappropriate jokes and racial stuff. It's gonna be. Oh, this is where we are. Buckle up, world.
Get your popcorn ready.
Buckle up, world.
Get your popcorn ready. But no, Reds do play tonight. And yes, Noelvi Marte, who has a 16-game hit streak at the AAA level, is looking to extend that tonight. He'll make his debut for the Reds tonight. The juicer. I've said this before, like, if the Reds were playing good ball and then they were short at that position and that's why they were losing games, I'd boo the hell out of this guy. You weren't here the week that it came out about, like, he basically, I'm really curious your thoughts on this too, because I was like, do the Reds have a PR department? And they do, because I know them, so maybe I need to be careful. But did anyone go through his little, like, not speech, but his statement when he went up there to address the media for the first time since coming back after the 80-game suspension? After he got, apparently it was some kind of steroid that you could only inject. There is no, so he said, I have no clue how that happened. You don't, like, what? Like, I would have been totally fine with just saying, yeah, I apologize. I made a mistake. It won't happen again, but this is not the first time he's been busted. I guess before he was before he even came to Major League Baseball, whatever league he was playing in out of the country, he got busted over there too. So when he did the whole, I don't know how it got there. The food, it must have been in the food and all this. And I'm like, come on, dude. Like, so if they're losing, and he's one of the reasons they've been losing is because of lack of depth in the middle infield. You have guys playing out of position, all this, that, and the other. I'm kind of mad at this guy. It's a selfish decision. There are people I truly believe, with all the chemicals that are out there, like, sometimes there is that innocent one that it's like, guys, I followed the regiment down to the, I have no clue what happened. I feel bad for that guy or gal in any sport because they're not going to believe them because of guys like this. I'm not a Noelvi Marte fan because of that. I don't want him to say, yep, I did it, I'm guilty, but at the same time, don't do that. And then, like, not even basically just take no accountability. And the fact that the Reds just sat back and like, yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
Something I've learned in my 40 plus years of life is we are a very forgiving people when you play good.
Yeah.
When you play well, we'll forgive you. We'll forget about all the stuff that you did, all the bad stuff that you did. But you got to be able to, show some type of remorse. And once you show remorse and then start playing good, like, people forget about it. But you got to show the remorse. The remorse is a key part of it. You can't just be the bad guy and then cheat and then just start playing well and just like, yep, we love him again. You have to show some type of remorse. You, like you said, you could just be like, yeah, that was my bad. I messed up. I feel horrible about it. Not going to do it again. Or I'd rather not talk about that. I'm trying to move forward. Like, even if that's the statement.
Better. Yeah.
I really don't want to talk about that right now. Maybe at a later date, but like right now I'm just trying to focus on, getting things together and winning some baseball games. And we wouldn't like it. We want you to say something, but we wouldn't like it. But just say, not what me. No, injecting never did. Nah, wasn't me. No, you can't do that. You got to show some type of remorse, say something, and then keep it pushing. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, and it's like, so, and if he ends up 16 game hit streak, he's living up to the build, right? Okay, cool. He's doing great things. So if he continues that with the Reds, now do I need to fear that at any moment heading into the postseason, if they get hot and he's helping lead that we could lose him for the most important time of the season? Because, hey, if he didn't know how it happened before, is he just unknowingly going through life, not knowing how this happened and it could happen at any moment? Like, I don't know. I know that's water under the bridge, kind of. But him making his debut tonight, look, you're right, though. Selfishly, just go out, put the bat in the ball, or put the bat in the ball, put the ball in play. Bat runs in. That's all I care about. But man, it's like, and if he does play really well, it's going to be even more frustrating because when they went on that just horrendous drought in May, they could have used a bat like his,
right?
And it's that type of thing, that selfishness too. That's what I with Chase, the Buckeye defensive tackle or whatever that got in trouble.
Chase Young.
Chase Young. People were making it about, oh, it's such a dumb rule. It's such a dumb rule. And I'm like, I agree. It is such a dumb rule. So why would you risk that team? Every year Ohio State has a national championship opportunity. To me, I was mad at him, at Chase Young that year. And I remember getting just beat up for that. They were killing me on the boards, according to a guy that talks like this. They were killing me on the boards. They were killing me on the boards because I was saying Chase Young is selfish. I'm mad at him. Well, everyone else was boo the NCAA. This is such a dumb rule. This is absolutely ridiculous. What? He can't, pay for his girlfriend, get a loan for his girlfriend to come watch him, this, that, and the other. I'm like, you guys are making it like trying to dumb it down to that to make it sound like all poor him, when really, no matter how dumb the rule is, him breaking that rule put his team in jeopardy. His team. Now, luckily, he only missed, I think, like Rutgers and Indiana, or I think it was Maryland and Rutgers. I mean, it was perfect. It was done perfectly. The 2-game suspension he served, right? But I'm like, what if that would have been found out later in the season and he missed against Michigan and they maybe lose that game, or they find out in the bowl season and he misses a playoff game? I'm like, those selfish decisions, whether the rule is dumb or not, you still got to follow it, because if you get caught breaking that rule, not only are you going to be punished, your absence is hurting those around you. That's a selfish decision. That's why I was so upset during that season about that Chase Young thing. And I felt I was on an island about that. And I agreed it was kind of silly. But that's the thing though. All these rules are dumb, but it's like, you still have to follow them, because if not, you're why your team loses a game because of your presence not being out there. Now, I'm not comparing Noelvi Marte. I would like Noelvi Marte's presence on the Reds, in the Reds lineup, to be as dominant as what Chase Young was for the Buckeyes, but we'll see.
Go Bucks.
Time comes. Absolutely. Ron says this show is all over the place. Yeah, it
bing,
is.
Bing, 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 bing.
It is. But
it's June.
There's a lot to talk. No, but to me, this is there's a lot of content today. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. In fact, I keep looking at the clock saying, crap, we're running out of time. I got to talk about this. Still haven't even got to my Guardians take. And that's what I want to do now. So, all right. Kev Nash's Guardians. We talked a lot. We talked about Trump and Biden and the debate. We talked about steroids. We talked about a lot. What else we talked about? We talked about the Reds. We talked about Noelvi Marte. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
NBA draft.
I mean, it's been a good show. Good. So
round 2 going on right now.
Oh, did that start already?
Yep.
Is that on ESPN?
Yes.
Bronny.
Not yet.
But is Bronny, he will get drafted, right?
Yes.
You don't think that's weird? No, I'm not. I didn't say you didn't think that's weird.
No, I don't think it's weird. Because we're accepting that,
when people say, well, he's only getting drafted because of his dad, we're all saying, yeah, we know.
Yeah, basically.
And that's just, isn't that weird for him, though?
That's a different story.
So I was listening to, again, Unsportsmanlike this morning, and they were talking about the fact that, he's going to get drafted because LeBron will be upset if he's not. And I'm like, who? Upset at who? Will he be mad at the Lakers if they don't? If that's the case, then the Lakers are not the respectable franchise that everyone believes that they are. I mean, they are, but I'm sorry. Oh, LeBron's mad at us because we didn't draft his kid that's probably not good enough to play in the league. Oh man, what are we gonna do? We got to bow down to. You're the Lakers. That's what the Cavaliers do. That's what the Orlando Magic would do. You don't do that if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, but they're going to. Okay. The other thing I heard to say, it's going to be crushing for him because he said his main goal was to hear his name on draft night. Well, you think he's the only one with that goal? I don't know. There are a lot of players who have unfamous parents who would kill to be in this position. And would kill just to be on an NBA team in general. I don't know. It's just, it would be a cool storyline. I would love to see a preseason game of him and LeBron running up and down the floor together. I don't care if you like LeBron or not. That's still very cool. It's one of the greatest players in any sport of all time, getting a chance to share the floor with his son. We get to see it in Cincinnati with the Griffeys a little bit. Like, I just think that's kind of cool, right? Like, that would be cool as far as that's concerned. But,
Yeah, for me, I don't have a big problem
sharing
with
the
it.
field with them, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have a huge problem with it, but it's kind of like you said, like it's forced. If it's forced, like, why do you want it? Like, everything LeBron James Sr. got, he literally earned on his own through his hard work. He got it. Now, LeBron James Jr., Bronny, is getting this opportunity because of who his father is. Now, there's many of people. One of them used to be the president of this country who got a head start in life because of their father. And there's people out here, and I don't have a big problem with that either. You know what I'm saying? If you're born into money, what do you want those people to do? Like, not accept it and go live in poverty and then work their way up and everything like that. So I don't knock those people. You know what I'm saying? It's not their fault that, they were born into money. It's not Bronny's fault that his dad is LeBron James. He was just simply born. He's here. This is what it is. This is his dream to play in the NBA, which is great. But like, for LeBron, I would imagine he will want his son to earn this opportunity since he earned that opportunity. You talked about so many other people out there who weren't in Bronny's position to do this, wanting to hear their name called as well. But he's going to potentially get his name called because of who his father is and the clout that his father has. I mean, it's no different from anything else that happens in this country. I don't have a huge problem with it, but obviously I'm not a parent, but I would not want my child to simply get this opportunity because of what I was able to do for them. I would want them to earn the opportunity to be drafted on their own, off of their hard work. And Bronny himself has said that himself in his interviews. Throughout this whole process, this is the first time we really got a chance to know Bronny and hear him speak and stuff like that. He's like, he basically said, I don't want to be drafted because of who my dad is. I want them to draft me for me. I'm here to make a name for myself. And hopefully that's actually the case. And if he is drafted by the Lakers, I wish him the best because, I mean, shoot, like, nobody wants to live in their older siblings or their parents' shadow their entire life. I mean, for goodness sakes, the kid's name is LeBron James Jr. Like, I've never heard another LeBron before him, and now there's another one. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's not a common name, so people are going to know exactly who you are.
Justin Kinner, Kevin Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio, 445 here in the Miami Valley. Yeah, and with that being said, too, this only becomes a story depending on who's drafted after him. And this won't be a story this season, but like if Jokic is drafted after, like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would be the Lakers. In fact, if I'm any team behind the Lakers, I'm feeling pretty good because karma sometimes could be a fill in the blank. And if the Lakers force feed this Bronny pick, which that's what it feels like to a certain extent. Now, there's a lot of people, including myself, the second round, it's a crapshoot. There are outliers, as we talked about earlier. You can't game plan for outliers. These guys are taking a chance on in the second round, basically. That's why everyone trades away second round picks all the time. That's what, to beef up a trade, to make it look good. Man, you give up a lot of draft picks. Well, a lot of those are second round picks. We don't really care about those. And even late first rounders sometimes aren't even that big of a deal, but it's not the point. The point is that with that being said, if whoever's picking behind the Lakers ends up drafting somebody that turns into an all-star or turns into a 20-point per game scorer,
especially at the same position,
and the Lakers get a preseason game of LeBron and Bronny, and then when LeBron leaves and the Lakers are what every team that LeBron has left in the past has been, and just dust, trust me, that could be very, very bad for the legacy of how LeBron and the Lakers are perceived with his run there. So we'll see, because we know we love to dissect legacies.
Absolutely. So let's pretend this. Let's pretend LeBron and Bronny and Rich Paul are sitting there and they get the phone call from the Lakers and they say, hey, we're going to draft Bobby Jones from Wisconsin instead of Bronny.
Ooh. But
we still want to offer Bronny a free agent deal, a non-drafted free agent deal. What do you do?
Oh, that, to me, that's how you save face with everything. There's less pressure on Bronny at that point. If Bronny gets drafted, Bronny has to pan out. And that's not fair it's not fair to him, because the other second rounders, if they flame out, well, you're a second round pick. But with him, it will be viewed a little bit differently. Right or wrong. Right or wrong. And I'm not saying I will, but I'm just like, we know how this stuff is.
Yeah.
So if he's drafted whenever, 5 points per game on a bad USC team. And yes, he was coming off, but there's many people who aren't convinced that he would have done much better had he not had the cardiac episode. I'm not making light of that. I'm not. But there are many people that don't believe that that's, there's not a lot of people that buy into that's why he only averaged 5 a game. Like, he was who he was, just a very good athlete who can, knock down some shots and get some rebounds and get some assists. He sees the floor well from time to time. He just is who he is. So we'll see. But yeah, again, this is the most fascinating second round draft that I can recall in quite some time that does not involve a draft where we're keeping an eye on a Tumani Kamara or a Kostas Antetokounmpo late in the second round.
Crazy.
So, nonetheless, Kinner and Cap, 1410 Wing AM. You're right, Ron. Show all over the place. Now let's get to what I've been teasing since hour number 1 that I haven't been able to focus on. My ADD is on fire today. A little distracted. I got something going on out of the office that has my attention real quick. So I'm trying to rally the troops here, if you will. But all right. So Kev Nash's Guardians. Let's go back to this as far as that's concerned. So Kev Nash's Guardians, best record in baseball, sitting atop all of Major League Baseball, not just the Central and the American League, not just the American League, but all of Major League Baseball. Best record in baseball as far as that's concerned. And again, they're one of the best offensive teams in baseball. They could improve pitching-wise. We talked about the Trevor Bauer thing the other day. But the bottom line is that the Cleveland Guardians should not be where they're at. They have the third lowest payroll in baseball, which means that they are not even trying to financially put a winner out on that field. And that's not a hot take. That's not a shot at Kev's Guardians. That's a shot at their front office. Okay, we as Reds fans, we love our Reds team, but we take shots at the front office all the time because we don't feel like they have our best interest or even at times the team's best interest at heart. They have their wallet's best interest at heart, and that's what drives us crazy. And the Cleveland Guardians, to us, and like in football, if you don't spend money, you're not going to win games. In the NBA, when you're not trying to put stars on your roster and spend money, you're not winning games. But in baseball, you could literally try not to buy talent and still, and accidentally is a bad word to use because the organization is doing very good things at certain levels of their organization. But if I'm Kev, I'm not happy about having the best record in baseball. I'm pissed about having the best record in baseball because if this is how good we could be without you giving a damn money-wise, imagine what we could be if you tried. The Guardians made the playoffs 2 years ago, had the lowest payroll in baseball. They have the third lowest payroll in baseball this year. They have the best record in baseball here heading into the month of July. And everyone is putting screenshots of Ramirez and the Guardians. And man, what a great story. What a great story. And it is, and it's cool. And I'm glad there's a team in Ohio that is winning at a level like that. But Kev, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing for baseball. That's not a good thing for the Cincinnati Reds. That is not a good thing for you watching and listening at home that is a fan of another small market team, because as long as the Guardians keep doing what they're doing, that will never incentivize the front office of the Cincinnati Reds to do a damn thing about it. Because what they're going to do, and they will die on this hill, they will say, look, the Guardians are a prime example. We don't need to spend money to be a contender. I mean, you look at the Yankees and Dodgers and everybody else. I mean, they spent millions and billions of dollars, and yet they're not always a contender. But the bottom line is as a fan, I want to feel that my front office is all in. I want to feel that they are all in on winning. And I don't think the Guardians are all in on winning, despite the fact that they have a very good farm system, the fact that they actually have a very good winning culture with the Cleveland Guardians franchise. But they also have a front office that if they matched their production from their developmental side with the financial side, I don't think the Guardians could be touched. We don't see dynasties in baseball, not because it's hard to do. I think it's just because teams won't invest in doing it. And I think that the Guardians are the perfect organization to do it if they just tried financially. And they won't. And the Reds are seeing the development of guys like Spencer Steer and Ellie De La Cruz and Christian Encarnacion Strand, Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, the juicer, Noelvi Marte. They're seeing the development of all of these guys and saying, look, we just need to keep drafting like this and developing this so that we could just keep telling our fans that look at all this youth, look at all this talent. The future is bright, but the future is when. I don't know when that is. I bet you're kicking yourself from last year not making moves at the deadline to take advantage of the fact that you were deep in the playoff push then and playing at a much higher level than you are now. I love the Guardians are a great story, but ultimately, when they get to the point of the season where they get knocked out of the playoffs because they were offense short, pitching short, bullpen short, all of a sudden that cute story of third lowest payroll in baseball with the best record, that's not so cute anymore. Now I'd be pissed. To me, I'd much rather be a Dodgers team that spends all this money and comes up short while trying than a team that overachieves lack of spending from the front office. And man, what could have been, I think that's harder to swallow than the other way around.
I'm on the other side. Because I look at a team, you talk about the Dodgers, but there are the Mets who are spending a lot of money and terrible. At least the Dodgers are good. They may not win the whole thing, but they're still good. They're winning 95, 100 games during the regular season and, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. But for me, I would be mad, or I will get mad when it's buying season and when the trade deadline comes around, and if they're not making moves then. Because if they keep up this rate of play and then they don't make necessary moves to tell us as the fans that, yeah, we feel like we can go ahead and win this thing, so we're going to make moves for right now, then I'll be mad. Because I don't think anybody, well, at least when I was on this here program saying, oh, man, they're not going to be good this year. I don't think anybody out there thought that they would be this good. You know, it's the same team as last year with Terry Francona, one of the best managers of all time in baseball.
He was the problem.
Right, exactly. So you get Volt, a first-year manager, and now the bats have awakened. The biggest difference between this team and last year's team is the pitching was carrying them last year. The pitching has been okay this year, but the bats are alive for this team right now. So we talked about this, I believe it was like on Monday, talking about Trevor Bauer and stuff like that, maybe picking him up. Be it Trevor Bauer, be it whomever is out there floating during the trade deadline from a team that is trying to sell off parts or whatever. If they're not in it to do that, then I'll be upset, because from what I've saw from this team this far, I don't think there's any reason in the world to think that they can't make a deep playoff run. So if they don't make any moves to bolster the bully or the starting pitcher by the time the trade deadline comes around, then I could jump onto your side of the fence and say, well, shoot, why are we waiting? As far as making long-term investments, like 10 years of money, I'm still not with that. But for the short term, absolutely, I think they should make plays during trade deadline when teams become sellers. The Guardians need to be buyers.
No, and fair. And look, when I say, lowest payroll in baseball, man, imagine if they spent money. I'm not asking them to be the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees being top 5 in spending, but look at where you're at now, 50 wins, best record in baseball, third lowest payroll. Imagine if you were just at that 20 spot, at that 18th highest spending team in baseball. You'd be at that 60, 65 win mark. You'd be the depth. Like, that's where it's going to.
But some of their best players are like just above rookie status. I mean, you talk about a Stephen Kwan, you talk about the Naylor brothers. Like, those dudes are super young. So, like, if you spend this money, then what does that do for their development and where they've come now? Like, I get you. I'm all about the pitching. Like, whomever the best pitcher that's going to be available on the market at trade deadline, I want him. Like, I'm not smart enough in baseball to tell you, we should do X, Y, and Z. Whoever the best pitcher is available, that's who they should go after. If it's going to be some prospects, give them up, because there's nothing wrong with the offense. There's something wrong with the starting pitching, and it's starting to show itself. Like, these games are starting to get to the 10-8s. You're starting to give up 8 runs a game and stuff like that, and you're starting to be down 3-0 to start games. Like, you can't continue to win at that rate that you did earlier in the season, later in the season, giving up starting games 0-3, and then expecting the offense to bail you out and come back and win. You got to get the pitching situation fixed. So whoever the pitchers are out there, or what is it, July 20th is trade deadline, they need to make moves then.
Kenner and Cap, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll keep an eye on that as that season goes on too. But Guardians, definitely a fun story. But I'm like, I don't think it's that cute that they're the best team in baseball with the third lowest payroll in baseball, because it's like, right now it's cool. Because basically what the organization's doing when bragging about that is, hey, somehow we're making it without us trying. That's what that screams. Like that's what's wild as far as that's concerned. I've said that about, with the industry that Kevin and I work in, coming out of COVID. When they fired half of everybody in this industry and everyone absorbed a lot of responsibilities of other people's jobs, it was told, well, just absorb some of these responsibilities. And once we come out of COVID, we'll hire people back. And no, radio sucks. Okay. It really sucks, and they didn't do that. And now everyone who absorbed those responsibilities got all those responsibilities done.
And
So then the Cleveland Guardians, I mean the ownership of these said radio stations, maybe even this one, I don't know. They said, well, gee, maybe we don't need to bring all those people back because Kinner and Kev were dumb enough to work for the same amount of money that we were doing before, and they're doing 5 other full people's jobs. And look, they got by. Why do we need to bring those people back? So now you're being punished for being successful without your company investing into you. I'm just saying, if that was the case here, that would be a good example to use. I'm going to take Kev's camera out. So that way it's just me saying this as far as that's concerned. But like that's what I'm saying is when you prove you could win without spending money, I don't think that helps. And when you prove in your job that you can get things done without any help from your ownership, that's not helping anything at all. But, it is what it is. But I would much rather be in Kev's situation as a Guardians fan than the situation the Reds fans are in. But nonetheless, we're not that far off. We have the young talent. We're just not winning like you. All can't be lucky like Kev.
It is luck.
All those winning Cleveland teams. Jordan says, yes, go off. Yeah, I might be facing a suspension for a while. We'll see.
Hey, good time to be suspended in the summer.
Kinner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio.